Right, so in today's video we're going to be doing a couple of lawnmowers. I need to be getting this polytunnel. It's full up with lawnmowers down the walkway and we've got a few lawnmowers outside, so I've dug a couple out and I've just put them in the log cabin because it's a bit of a nightmare to work in here at the minute, because obviously we've still got the Piaggio NRG scooter here with no wheels on because they are still down at the sandblasters, powder coaters. There was meant to be a video of that last week, but when I got down there he did have a burst water main actually right in front of his unit, so obviously that took priority, so he hasn't done no blasting for the last week. I believe that is being rectified today. I think they're finishing off the job today, so I'm going down to see him when I've done all these, what I'm doing here today on the lawnmowers, to see when the wheels will be ready. Obviously he's been out of action for a week, so he's got a backlog of stuff to do now, so it might be the fact that I might just say to him, push the wheels through when you're doing other jobs rather than doing the wheels on their own, so when we can record it. It just depends on what he says really, because obviously we've been waiting nearly 3 weeks now to get on with this bike and it's just using up ramp space. So it might just be the fact that I say to him, get them done, and then we'll obviously see him, we'll go and pick them up and get them back on the bike. So hopefully we still can film the process, but I'm saying don't hold your breath on that because I do want them back, and obviously he's got a week's backlog. So the Piaggio is still sitting there as it has been for the last 3 weeks. We've got 3 mowers left still in here. We've got a Honda Izzy, we've got a Hater 41 and a big, I think that's probably about a 21-inch Mountfield self-drive, and it has a self-drive problem on that, I believe. It's not going into gear. I don't think it's engaging. I think it's clicking if I remember rightly, but don't quote me on that. I'll have to have a look at that at a later date. But the Hater 41 needs a grass bag and a front left wheel because the wheel rubber's come off. I might be able to get away with reusing the wheel rubber again and just repairing that one, but if I can get another wheel, I'll get another wheel for it. And I say I need another grass bag, so if any of you have got one, let us know because I'll be interested in that. And this Honda Izzy, this one might have had a knocking engine actually, so I did pinch the carb off it for another one, because the carb on this one, which I done for another one, this had been cleaned 2 or 3 times. It'd been through the ultrasonic cleaner, but it just wasn't playing ball. It was just playing me up, so I did nick a carb off of this one. So obviously that's got a carb missing, and I think that one does have a knocking engine. So I've got another engine outside that I can use for this, but I will try and get it running before I change it, because I say I've had that many mowers of these Izzies anyway, and I've got another one out there, so it might be that one with a knocking engine, but I'm 99% sure this one's the one with the engine problem, because it's got a really good body on this. If it didn't have an engine problem, I'd have turned that around a bit quicker and got that sold. But let's go in the log cabin and see what mowers we got in there. Right, so now we're in the log cabin. As you can see, we've got a couple of green mowers here. We've got a cheap, well, they're both cheap B&Q specials. This is a petrol rotary lawnmower RWR 400 PRMW. So it's basically like a knockoff of the old Mountfield bodywork basically. There is actually no brand name on it apart from the PWR 400. So basically that is a Mountfield deck, what Mountfield use. The reason I'm stripping that one is because this one has a knocking engine on it, and again this is only a cheap B&Q special Quailcast. So they're both cheap run-of-the-mill lawnmowers. This one's got a bit of scuffing on the deck, and that's a better deck on that one, but we're actually taking the engine off of that one and putting it on this one. Reason is because on the front wheel, on one of the front wheels, Soppy actually nicked the old height adjustment lever, and we ain't got any of them in stock, so I'm not going to go around buying one just for the sake of it when I could take the engine off of that and put it on here. And because this engine's knocking, as I say. I will start it up in a second and let you have a listen to the knock. I've gone round, it's not the blade knocking on nothing, it's actually internal problems. I've checked the oil in it, it's up to the mark, oil looks clean and fresh. It does come with a grass bag. It'll be a nice little cheap £60 mower for someone. Again, if I'd done that one up, it's sort of the same money, so everything's on this one that I need. That one I'd have to spend a bit of money buying a height lever and find the top of the handle. So this one, quick straight bolt on. Let me quickly start it up and you can have a listen to this engine. So I'm going to give it 3 times. I won't have it running for long because we're inside. There we go, so she has got a bit of a nasty knock, and I say I wasn't too worried about starting that and running it. If something happens to the engine, we're not bothered because we are replacing it. So, but yeah, you could go down, strip this engine down, have a look inside it, maybe repair it, but at the end of the day, it's a £60 mower, it's not worth it, it's just a throwaway item. So we're going to, first of all, get this one stripped off while it's on the workbench. So we'll just knock that one back out of the way. We'll be using all the parts off of this one, like the petrol tank and the fuel box and all that, because we know it all works fine. It will need a carburetor service, diaphragm and that. It's been sitting about 2 to 3 years. So first of all, I'm just going to undo the recoil cover, which is just 3 bolts. I won't go into too much in depth on removing this engine because there is plenty of videos on YouTube regarding lawnmowers, replacing parts, swapping engines. I was just bringing you this little video. I was just showing you what I get up to. And the coil's missing off of this. But again, that's not a problem because we've got a fully running mower down there. We're just interested in this main engine block. So all the ancillary parts, it doesn't really matter. We can change them off of the other ones. I'm going to take this airbox off. Again, all this sort of stuff can be done by someone at home. You don't have to take it to a shop and spend hundreds of pounds. Air filter's a bit oily, but it's not too bad. You can still see the foam of the filter, so we will be choosing between filters which one's the best. Take this exhaust guard off, because the other one hasn't actually got a guard on it, so we will be keeping this guard. If I do have lawnmowers, I do like to put an exhaust guard on, because they don't always come with them, so it is just a little feature. The exhaust, I'm going to take this off because the one on our mower is actually a better exhaust. The way we're doing that, they have little tabs on there, just at the edge of the bolt. Just straighten them back out. Just so you can get your socket over. There we go. Well, now we're actually 11 mil on this mower. So not overly tight. And that stud's really wet there, so I say it has been sat outside a good couple of years, this mower, so there's probably water in the exhaust. It's not been turned over, so there shouldn't be any oil in it. But it just look a bit wet. Yeah, you can see it dripping off of the studs there. The exhaust's got a bit of water in it. So when we have got this off, we will clean all this up, because it's nice just to work in a clean environment. I'm just going to get the airline on. Right, so I've just given around that engine a quick blow about. I'm just going to whip the spark plug out now. I did check off camera, there is no oil in this, well, very minimal. It's just a drip touching the bottom of the dipstick, so that plug went in very tight. Doesn't look very old though, actually, a bit wet, but the plug actually looks alright itself. The gap looks good. I say it looks like there's been a bit of water in there, so I will just blow through there with the airline. Just blow down that cylinder. Next step, what we're going to do is we're just going to whip the carby, whip the tank unit off, along with carb will come with it. And that's another thing off. Just check these breather pipes as well, because they are known to crack and break, so just have a look at that, inspect it when you're there. So we're just going to undo this tank now, and this is fixed at 2 places. You've got your main bolt going through here, then you have again another little bolt just at the front there. So we'll just take that out, put that back in there, and we'll get our smallest socket. Again, pull that out, and we'll just take this off. And this tank's got a lot of stuff in it, whether if it's fuel or water is a different story. It looks a bit brown, you won't be able to see that in the camera, but it's about 3/4 of a tank in there. And it does smell a bit petrol-y, but it does smell a bit weak, so let's just pour it into this cup and see what we've got in here. I won't be using it again in this, we'll just keep this now as a cleaning fluid. And there's bits of crap of it just dropped off the tank into it, so let's have a look at that. It is a bit cloudy, looks like a cider. Again, it does smell a bit potent, so it can't be that old. Well, it's going to be 2 years old. So it's been in there a couple of years. It's still got a bit of smell to it. I'm just going to stick it outside while we're working, because I don't want to get a headache from that smell. So that's outside. And I say that will come in handy as a cleaning detergent for cleaning these parts down, what we're going to be using off of whichever mower. So we can get this out of the way. The primer does work on that one as well, so that seems like a good carb setup. We've got the springs on here as well, which is nice. Both springs don't look like they've been messed with. So what I'm going to do is going to flick the mower now on its back. So there we go. It's a bit dark in there, I know that, but just have to bear with me on that. So we're going to get this blade off. It's going to be a 14. Yeah, 14 mil. So just got our Clark impact gun, and we're going to whiz this off now. Makes no trouble with that. No need to try and jam the blade up or nothing with them impact guns. Straight off, not an issue at all. Might have to change the boss on this as well, but we won't do that until we've got it fitted on a new deck to see if that's going to be alright. We will measure it, but I say if we can keep this boss on, we will. I'm not sure if they're the same width in cutting width actually. If they are, that's a better blade that's on this mower, so hopefully we can go with this running gear. So I'm just going to clean these bolts off with a wire drill attachment, just to give us a better chance. And there's only 3 on this one. Now I would stick a bit of WD-40 on there, but I can't find it, so just going to give them a bit of heat just to help them. Ain't going to go too mad. And what are they going to be? 14s again. Yeah, and I just need a 14 mil just to hold the top down. So where are we? Well, that's one out. I will leave the studs in just to hold the engine, stop it sliding about. 2. And we'll just do this last one. You've got to be careful here because the engine will try and tip now, so just pull it forward a bit. There we go. Just caught that nicely. So now we've got that block off. That deck is redundant. This can go for a clean up, this engine. So we'll probably do that outside. And I won't film that because it's really windy out there. So I'm going to just do that now with that old petrol we had. Give it a clean up. We'll come back in. We'll strip the other deck off. That one there. Get that new clean engine fitted onto that deck. and then we can go and start putting all the exhaust and carburetor on, doing all that sort of good stuff. So it's not really a long job. So I'm just going to quickly clean that engine and I'll be back with you. Right, so welcome back, folks. We're going to be keeping this carb and tank that was off of the donor mower. It just seems to look like a better tank, and carby, it looks a bit newer, and it looks like it's had a new primer bulb in at some point. So we'll go for this one, and we know this had petrol in the tank already, and it primes lovely, this one. The primer bulb is lovely and soft, it's not all gone all hard and brittle, so I think we'll use this one. Although we did know the other one was good and working, but it was just hunting. But either way, we was going to do a carb service on these, so we'll just keep the other one as a backup carbon tank. So it is just 5 screws. I say there's hundreds of videos on YouTube of these being done, so I'm not going to go too crazy in it. And that is really clean in there. That is really clean in there. I'm really happy with that. Normally this little chamber gets filled up with crap and all that, but that's lovely in there. So I don't even need to blow that one out. So we have got a replacement diaphragm and gasket. We'll just peel the old one off. And I say I don't know if this one was hunting or not, because we didn't actually start this one, and we couldn't because once we started digging into it, we noticed there was no coil on it, so that goes on there just like that. You want to make sure these are lined up properly over these holes, because you can catch your screws when you do come to drop your screws in there, and that can cause you an issue. I've seen that done before. So always make sure that they are lined up perfectly. I say this carb doesn't look too bad, there's no crap on the filter, but I am going to give that a quick little blowout. While we're in here, it'll be silly not to, so I'm just going to take this outside and give it a quick blow through, and I'll be back with you. Right, so that's everything blown through. Don't forget to put your spring back on and your little mesh cover. If you do pull this tube out, make sure when you push it in, you do hear the click, because I've seen people in the past just push them on and it doesn't click, and then what happens is it drops in your tank and you won't get your mower to start at all then. So again, we're just going to get that in. Make sure everything's seated as it is, should be. Just look down them screw holes, you can see if you're actually pinching it. So if you're not pinching it, they should drop straight down the screws, just like that. And you'll find if your gasket or diaphragm is catching, there'll be a bit of resistance there, so that's how you'll know as well. And the way we're doing these up is we're just going to do wind them down just till they start nipping tight, and then we're going to do a cross formation to do them up. So just as soon as they start getting tight, come again, do diagonals, and then once you've got all 5 down to that tight position, you just want to go round and give them a final nip up. Don't go too mad, don't try swinging off them, because you can distort this. These are only plastic carbs, these, so you can warp them. So we'll go round now. We'll start there. One turn, one turn, one turn, one turn, and last but not least, there we go. Lovely jubbly. I say that prime's lovely, that one. So that is that tank, all done and dusted now. I'm not going to bother giving it a paint up. I say it is a cheap mower. I have painted the recoil. That was just because that's the first thing you see when you come to view these mowers, is the recoil cover, and it was very rusty. So I'm going to bring the deck in now, and we'll give it a bit of a... I'll give it a bit of a clean up so we can hopefully start rebuilding this. Right, so that is the 3 engine bolts put back on now. I didn't film that, that was just a reversal of what we had to do to strip it. So I can use the blade that come off of the donor mower, because the blades are actually the same width cutting. So this is a lot better blade. So we will be sticking this blade onto this deck, because I'll show you the original one that come off of this deck. It's very worn, you can see the shape of it. There's not a lot of meat left down here, and it's took a bit of a hammering, this one. There's some gouges out of it, so don't that is a scrap basically, and we will use this one. I will go and sharpen it up now, put a nice edge on it. It don't look too bad, this blade. It's done a bit of work, but not a lot. So I'm going to quickly put an edge on this blade. We'll get this bolted back on, and we'll get the mower back on its wheels and start bolting the carb and the tank and everything back on, the exhaust. And hopefully we can go for a start up pretty soon. All being well, this is a good engine. It was turning over, but obviously we couldn't start it because there was no ignition coil on it anyway. So all being well, this was a good mower, and it's going to turn us a little bit of a profit. So right folks, that's the blade back on. Give it a nice sharpen and balance, and I've just give it a little bit of coat of paint just to take the just to make it look a little bit fresher for when the person does come to look under it, they see that it has been worked on. So we can stick this back on its wheels now. Right, so I did take the ignition coil off the other mower, so we can take this one out now. So we just remove them 2 bolts. Just move that out of the way for a minute. We don't need that governor arm or that bolt there. We'll just need to plug this in, make sure all connections are clean, and we'll stick that on there. So we'll just wind that in started. We'll get that one started. Right, so there is still movement on there for it to move forward and backwards. So the way we are going to set this is, you can use a playing card, but I ain't got one here. So we'll just stick here, I'm using a bit of sandpaper. So we're going to just turn this now until see our coil pulled against the flywheel. So where that magnet is, you'll see this pull. That's why you need to have a bit of slack on these bolts so it will move. So turning this round. There we go, it's just pulled there. So we are locked on there, and that is the gap we need. So we want to nip that up now, when I can find my little ratchet. We'll nip them down. And I say, ideally you want a playing card. That's about the right width you want. And don't go too mad on that, because you still need your governor to move. So we'll just wind that back now, and that should move now. There we go. And we just have a perfect gap there between that, what we need. So there are spares. So that's all plugged in. We've still got the springs left in place. So we can go ahead now and get our carb and tank, which they are here. And I've just noticed on this one, there's no, there should be an O-ring and a little clip there. So I'm going to pinch that off the other one. You need to make sure you got them. And that's what I'm talking about there, look. You do need to make sure that they are seated in there. So just make sure they're seated properly, because they can give you running issues, these. There we go, they just clip in, and that just goes home on that tube there. So we're going to stick our springs on, everything there. That's all lovely jubbly. So now we're going to get our bolt, which comes, and you want your bracket there, you got your nut, your bolt goes through there. We'll just get this one started off. You might need to take your fuel cap off just so you can get your socket in there. Look. And don't go too mad, because you want to get your front one in as well, just to make sure everything's lined up where it wants to be, because otherwise you'll have to undo that bolt again just so you can get this one lined up. So I'm happy with that, they're both in now, so we can go ahead and just tighten them up. There we go. Put our fuel tap back on there, our fuel cap back on there, so we don't get no rubbish in our tank. We can wind this one up now. That's lovely. So I did give the old air filter a bit of a clean out. That can sit back on there now. We can nip that up with a screwdriver. Yeah. Hold on, I forgot one thing. I ain't put the little gasket on. There's a little gasket on here, look, I've just noticed that. And there's another thing I've noticed. I'm getting carried away, see, look. I ain't put the little L boot on. Right, sorry about that, I had to change the battery on the old camera. So yeah, I've got that boot on now. I've got the gasket on. We can stick this on now. And yeah, we're using the DJI Action 3 camera, and I'll tell you what, it's fantastic. Not had any issues with this at all. The battery life lasts a hell of a lot longer. I was using the GoPro before, the 7, and the batteries just seem to go really quick on them. I don't know if that's because the batteries are getting on a bit, or they just like that, but I know they do go pretty quick, them batteries. But this battery on these DJIs do really last. I can get through a whole video near enough without changing it. The only reason I had to change it today is because it was only partly charged from last time I done a video. But yeah, I'm really having good experience with this DJI. I'd never heard of them before. They seem like they're quite a big company now. They do a lot of drone stuff as well. So yeah, it really impressed. I'm going to go with the original spark plug that come out of it. I've cleaned it up. As you can see, it looks good. It's an ALM. It's no special brand or nothing. But we'll go with it for now, because it looks like it has been recently changed. I've still got the other plug out of the other engine, which was an NGK, and again that didn't look too bad. But if we can get away with using this one, we'll use this and keep the other one as a backup. So we just want to make sure we don't over tight on that, but we just want to crimp that crush washer so now we're getting a good seal on there. So we won't put that HT lead on yet. We'll get the exhaust on now. So we'll get this mower turned round. As I say, we are going with the old exhaust because it doesn't look too bad, in my opinion. So we'll just start that one off. And now that one's started, so we'll get that one going. Get them lined up. Send them both home. I say, if this was a higher end mower, I would have painted all the parts and made it look a lot tidier, but I say it's going to be a 60 to 70 pound lawnmower at the end of the day, so you can't be spending time and money on paints and stuff for not getting a return out of it. So just bend them tabs back over. There we go. We'll get the top recoil cover on, then we can get the exhaust guard back on, and then I think we're ready to go outside for a start. Right, so we've got the recoil cover there. Just make sure you don't get your HT lead trapped in there. Get your bolts. Just make note that your exhaust bolt has a bigger washer around it. As you can see, that's smaller ones there. But the one with the biggest washer goes around the exhaust guard. And you do want to get all these 3 bolts just lined up before you start winding anything in. Right, so we're just going to check the oil in it now. Yeah, this one's got no oil in it. This one was just at the bottom of the dipstick, so it's clean what's in there, but I say it's just very, very low. Just barely touching the end of the stick. So we will stick some in there. If you can see, there's nothing actually in there. It's just on the bottom, so Right, I'm just going to get my cup. You don't want to go too mad. Just do a bit at a time. Because otherwise we'll just end up taking it out again. So just remember, put it in. These ones you just wind them in and then wind them back out. Because on some mowers, mainly the Hondas and stuff, you don't actually wind them in to do the check. You just drop your stick in. So right, so we're just on the minimum mark now. So we can go again. I know normally that it normally takes about 3.5 of these little funnels that I've got here to fill one of these Briggs engines up. Now, I do hope this engine's alright. I say I can't remember. It's been a couple of years since I've really done mowers. So all this work, I hope it's paying off. And that's bang on the mark, on the money that is. So what we've got to do now is I'm just going to stick a bit of petrol in it. We'll take it outside and we'll give it the start up, if it'll start. So I'll see you in a minute. Right folks, I've put the mower on the floor now. I've just been outside, it's too windy and there's the RAF planes are going over, so I'm going to just quickly start it up in here. I won't have it running for too long, obviously because of the fumes and all that, but as you can see, the mower's looking quite nice and tidy. It's not turned out too bad. So just painting that top cover will help with the sail. It makes it look 100 times better rather than the rusty old cover there. So we'll stick the old plug cap back on. There you go, that's clipped. We'll give it a few primes. Still low on petrol, I only put a cupful in. So I'm just going to give this a quick pull over now. Hopefully it starts, because I say it's an unknown engine this, I can't remember much about this one, so let's go for it. Right, so as you heard there, it went the second pull, which was great news. It will need to go outside and run for a bit because I say there was a bit of oil in the exhaust port of this one, so it will need to run out for 10 minutes. It might start popping and all that. You may have just heard a couple of pops then, but I say I'll take it outside, run it out for 10 to 15 minutes, and hopefully that should be this one done. If not, it could be a cheap diaphragm and gasket I've got in here. If you're going to get them diaphragm and gaskets, do get yourself a genuine Briggs & Stratton one. We did have a job, a lot of these Chinese ones, and they're no good for really. So I'll give it 10 or 15 minutes outside. If the popping doesn't stop, I will be having to change the diaphragm and gasket again. I should learn by my mistakes really. We just need to get rid of them Chinese ones. I still do put them in now and again, because sometimes you do get the odd one that's right, but now if this ain't right, I'm going to have to take it out, get another Briggs one, and it's only a 10-minute job, but it's 10 minutes that I shouldn't have to be doing. So do always buy the genuine Briggs & Stratton ones for this. I say these Chinese ones, they're a waste of time. You're doing the job twice basically. So yeah, I'm going to leave it here for this little video. Hopefully that's going to be one mower out of the way, well 2 mowers out of the way, because we scrapped the other one. So that's 2 mowers out of the way. I will be doing the Honda Izzy. Let us know in the comments down below if you do want to see them, because I say there is the market is flooded with lawnmower videos. I don't want to just keep bringing you stuff when there's loads of that content out there. So if you do want to see it, just let us know down below. But otherwise, I might just do the odd mower every other month or so as a quick little fast blast. I want to do a couple of restorations on them other 2, so I might bring the big restoration ones to you where we powder coat decks and go the full hog on them. But these cheap run-of-the-mill ones, I'll probably just call that a day on these. This will probably be the last one, because I say it's just repetitive content. So also I've been chatting to one of the other lads, Danny from DT Motorcycle Essex. If you haven't got Danny, go check him out. He's been on the lowdown for the last few months. He's had a few equipment issues with cameras and all that, so he's just got in contact with me. I've been chatting to Danny, and he's got himself some new equipment, so he's getting back on it now. He's put a couple of videos out already. He ain't had nothing out for a good 6 or 7 months, I think it's probably been. He's a bit like myself, but he just does the motorbikes. But he's just passed his car test now, and he's got himself a little run around Ford Fiesta. So he is doing a few little jobs on that as well. So it is a bit of a variety channel now. He's doing cars, and he's got quad bikes on there, pit bikes, scooters, motorbikes. So if you're into all your spannering mechanic sort of side of stuff, cars and bikes, go check out Danny, DT Motorcycle Essex. I'll leave a link down below for him. He's a good lad, and he gets straight to the point. He don't mess about. So I'm going to get off now, and until next time, we'll see you about.